popcorn, even dinner, or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, even dinner, or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, even dinner, or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, even dinner, or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, even dinner, or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, even dinner, or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, even dinner, or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, even dinner, or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, even dinner, or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, even dinner, or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, even dinner, or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, even dinner, or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, even dinner, or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, even dinner, or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, even dinner, or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. If it's Monday or Wednesday night, then it must be California Haunts Radio Night. Please take this time to gather some popcorn, hamburgers, hot dogs, maybe even dinner or whatever snacks you eat, and have a sit down in front of the TV, the computer, or even your cell phone and enjoy the show. Hey, welcome to the show tonight. I'm really excited to be here, and I hope you are too. My name is Charlotte. I'll be your host for the next hour or so. I am the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team based out of Sacramento. You can find us at www.californiahaunts.org. We're 35 strong up and down the state of California, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, and Hawaii. You can also see the updates to these shows on the radio website at www.californiahauntsradio.com. We will have this video up as well as stuff that you can go find in our archives and check it all out, plus some weird paranormal news on the site. So check us out. Anyway, we have a great guest tonight. I'm really excited. I love talking cryptids. I love talking monsters and phantoms. And Lon Strickler is an expert in all of this stuff. He has 9 books out on the subject. And he is going to be with us tonight to talk about some of this stuff. So you guys in the chat room, if you want to come in and ask questions of him, feel free to do it, because this is the time to do it. I mean, there's just so much to discuss with this gentleman. I can hardly wait. So, without further ado, let's bring Lon on, and he can tell us a little bit about himself. Hello.
Hey, how you doing, Charlotte?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. You have quite the array of books and stuff that you study.
Yeah, well, you know, this is actually something I've done most of my life. I've been involved with the paranormal involuntarily for the most part, and you know, I was born and raised in South Central Pennsylvania, very near the Gettysburg battlefield. So, as a kid, I used to like to get on my bike and go out that way. It was just a few miles away, and one summer day, I was out in the area where they call the Valley of Death, which is between Little Round Top, the wheat field, and Devil's Den. And, you know, I'm like 9 years old or so, and I'm on my bike. And all of a sudden, I mean, you know, it was like a big TV screen opens up in front of me. And I'm hearing gunfire, yells, seeing apparitions, seeing soldiers, smelling gunpowder, the whole 9 yards. I mean, this lasted for about 30 seconds, and it just quickly went away. That's kind of when I realized something was going on. You know, I always felt that I was somewhat different. You know, I didn't grow up in a haunted house or anything like that, but I would sense things, you know, I wasn't really sure what they were. But that kind of opened it up for me that day. And afterwards, I was interested. Now, mind you, this is like the late 60s, early 70s when I started doing this. You know, paranormal investigating was, you know, you tell somebody you're a paranormal investigator back then, and they look at you like you're a nut. And, you know, that wasn't really mainstream like it is today.
Right.
So, you know, as I grew older and went into high school, I literally started going to locations and trying to get a sense. I'm intuitive. I was getting a sense of things history-wise for the most part, because I went to a lot of places where there were battles and murders and whatever. And, you know, that's what I did. And actually, I was helping people with their, you know, hauntings that they had at home. Or in a business. You know, I was still in high school yet. So I moved to Maryland right after high school, and I was living outside of Baltimore. And up to that time, it was just, spirits and hauntings. And then in 1981, May of 1981, I had a Bigfoot encounter. And that was near Sykesville, Maryland, just a little bit east of the town on the south branch of the Patapsco River. And, when that happened, and, this thing was pretty close to me, I got a real good look at it. Didn't really know what I was looking at. But, I was there fishing at a spot I'd been plenty of times, and this thing showed up, and, we made eye contact for a good 10 seconds or so, and then it just turned around and took off. That's kind of the day that I wanted to start learning about what I had just seen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of when the cryptid world opened up for me. And I've been doing that. That's 40 years now. I've been doing that ever since.
So when you saw Bigfoot, was it scary? Did it scare you?
I guess it did. I guess I was more shocked than anything. I didn't know what I was looking at, though I had an idea. Back then, that was around the time where, the Legend of Boggy Creek and all that came out.
Right.
People knew I had an idea what Bigfoot was. The Patterson Gimlin film started going a little more mainstream than it had back in the 60s and early 70s. So I figured I had seen one. I figured this is what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
It was about 8 foot in height, a lot of hair, kind of matted, brown. But honestly, it looked more like an early man, a Neanderthal. It had a real deep brow ridge, and had like a conical head. And it was actually making a ticking sound, which I later found out was most likely gnashing its teeth. I eventually got other reports that was close to that. Got a bit of a whiff of smell like something like fox urine.
Mm-hmm.
But that was about it. And, when I saw it, I guess by the time I picked my jaw out of the water, I was up in my car driving into town to call the police and let them know that something was out there. And, when they said, well, go back, we'll have a police officer meet you. And I figured, well, I'm going to be standing there for an hour hoping this thing doesn't come back.
Yeah.
But by the time I got there was a Maryland State police officer already there with a wooden boundary, up in front of the road, blocking the road. So they were looking. I think they were looking for this thing. There had been a sighting earlier in that day down the river further, and for the folks that are familiar with the Baltimore, Washington area, there's a lot of government facilities that we just don't know about. You can see places, but you don't know what they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a feeling that there was something involved with this particular being. And we had feds, all the authorities around there, helicopters, the old black Wagoneers they used to drive, the feds. They had dogs and searchers out there in the woods, and they had a big white tent set up across the river. So they were looking for something. I don't know if they got anything or not, but that's I kind of got the full 9 yards introduction to Bigfoot. And that area of Sykesville, Maryland had been known for a phenomena, the Sykesville monster, which was literally a Bigfoot that had been seen there about 8 years previous to that. And this Bigfoot was literally going into people's homes, garages, into their chicken pens, and up and down the river. So when I was able to, when I found out about that, and I knew someone who had family that had an experience with this thing, I was given kind of a carte blanche to go in and talk to people. I found other witnesses that the media never interviewed. So, that's kind of where I got the cryptid bug at.
Interesting. Very interesting. So it took off from there, obviously, because I was looking through your books and stuff that you've written, and oh my gosh, you covered a lot of stuff over the years.
Yeah, it's been a lot of opportunity. When you start out, it's kind of slow. Quite frankly, until I started on the blog in 2005,
mm-hmm.
I was collecting stories. I was collecting accounts, word of mouth for the most part. I had taken trips here and there, and especially like going down to Florida or down south, and I would stop somewhere and somebody be beside the road. I'd be there talking to them, writing stuff down. I did that for a lot of years. Got a lot of stories. So, I had a lot of things piled up until eventually somebody talked me into starting a blog, and that's where Phantoms and Monsters started.
Well, that makes sense because when I used to work with Psychic Nancy Matz, that's what she talked about was, if you want to start writing books, the best way to do it is to start writing a blog, because then you can take everything you put in your blog and it's already there, almost chaptered out. So you can just put it in the book format.
Yep. Yeah, and that's primarily what I did. I started out with some small books. I had like a 5-book encounter series with, just had minor sightings for the most part. And, as time went on, I started doing, larger books about investigations and stuff I was involved with. Then, that's when this whole flap, later on in 2017, that's when this whole Chicago Mothman winged humanoid flap started. And my team and I kind of fell into that. I don't know why that happened. I had an encounter in 1988 of a winged being that had red eyes, and I had 2 other people with me. And then after that, I think that shocked me more than anything. But quite honest with you, the sightings that have been recorded in Chicago and around Chicago have very much been similar to what I encountered back there in '88.
Interesting. And about the ones in Chicago, I've seen stuff on TV about it, obviously, because they're all over TV. What do you find so unique with them? Because a lot of the people that witnessed those, it was really far off for them to see. I know they saw what they saw, right? But it was kind of far off for people to see. How was it determined that it was a being?
Well, a lot of these sightings were fairly close. There were a few, there some distance for some of them.
Okay.
But it was close enough to where I get a pretty good description of them. And it was interesting because there were a lot of factors that were quite interesting. First of all, when we started getting the reports starting in spring of 2017, the actual reports, the witnesses didn't embellish on the reports. When they told me something, they stuck to that.
Sure.
I would try to get them to embellish just to see if they were trying to pull the wool over my eyes, but quite frankly, they were hanging to it. And, they would experience some type of foreboding feeling. I wouldn't really see fear, but there were some that had some fear. They didn't know what they had seen. As time went on, the press started calling this thing the Chicago Mothman, so that kind of stuck. I was calling it the Chicago Phantom at first, but I guess that wasn't good for press. So just like everything else, they started putting their own moniker onto it, and then it started taking off. Though quite frankly, and even till today, we still get a lot of sightings, and people really don't know what they're looking at. They've never heard of the Chicago Mothman. They just don't really have any idea what it is they're seeing. And then when they start searching on Google, they find the team on there, and then they report it to us.
Do you think that this thing could be related to Mothman?
I think the origin might be very close. The Mothman, of course, is the Point Pleasant Mothman you're referring to, and that, I believe, in my opinion, was a summoned being. In other words, the strong indigenous spirit activity in and around especially around the West Virginia Ordnance Works, what people call the TNT plant and such. It's very strong there. I've been there. I've sensed it myself. I've heard some really amazing EVPs. I mean, amazing. Seen a few things interesting. Occasionally, I'll get a photograph of something that can't quite tell what it is, but it's not indigenous. But I think this spirit literally summoned that being, that Mothman. And of course, as time went by and John Keel started reporting it started becoming more known to people. Back in December, just before Christmas, they had the in '67 they had the Silver Bridge collapse, which killed 46 people. And of course, Mothman got drug into that as being a harbinger because somebody said they saw it before the disaster. And I don't really buy into the harbinger thing. I think it was kind of convenient because small town, 46 people die. That's a big tragedy for a small town anywhere. And I think people were kind of looking for excuses. I mean, you get into areas like that in the Ohio Valley and down in West Virginia. There's a lot of folklore, there's a lot of legends and things, and people, they kind of make, they take whatever evidence they have and go with that. And I think that's a lot of what happened with the harbinger thing. And of course, John Keel, he kind of exasperated on it. He was writing about it then in the Mothman prophecies, of course. Right. Then other stuff was going on with the Men in Black and UFO sightings. So the UFO sightings have been going on for quite a while. A lot of paranormal activity. Now, as far as what's going on in Chicago, I believe it's very close to what's happened in Point Pleasant in that respect, that it possibly came from another dimension. And I think that's what's going on. I think there is a rift somewhere, or maybe many rifts in and around the Chicago area. Why that's happening, we just don't know. We've looked at a lot of theories. We looked into the occult. We looked into witchcraft. We've looked into all kinds of things. And right now, there's really no definitive answer. It's just all speculation. The whole cryptid phenomena for years now has, been sitting on some speculation that, maybe these beings aren't indigenous. Maybe they just show up for whatever reason. Maybe they're alien or extraterrestrial.
Oh, yeah.
That very well may be what's going on here. Since October 2019, we've had a lot of sightings in and around the O'Hare International. And, there have been some particular areas where a lot of these sightings have taken place. Mostly and more recently, on the western cargo areas of the airport, where there is actually a cemetery there. A lot of people don't know there's an actual cemetery on the grounds of O'Hare International. And we had a report there about a year or so ago of a actual UFO that showed up, an oval UFO all lit up that hovered above the cemetery, and a humanoid of some type ascended up into it. That was told us by a truck driver. And, we get a lot of reports. And more recently, we had a report from July 22nd, where we have 4 sets of witnesses now. And I just put another post up today. People are coming forward, to the chagrin of the to the O'Hare powers to be and supervisors of some of the carriers. They're trying to keep it quiet. They're telling people that, not to report it. And more specifically, they're telling them not to report to us because we're getting the vast majority of the sightings. So that's kind of where we are right now with that phenomenon.
That's interesting. And my other question now, with everything going on in the news, and if you understand, do you find that the sightings increase when there's heavy duty stuff going on? That maybe it might have an effect on it?
I haven't really noticed that. Now, we have had some strange sightings by service people in Iraq and Afghanistan over the years. There have been some pretty bizarre sightings of some unknown beings or beasts and such. You really don't have much evidence other than hearsay or what they're telling you. But, most of these folks are pretty sincere about it. So, this stuff happens everywhere. I mean, when you're talking cryptids, monsters, unknown beings, of course, here in the United States or North America, it's more accepted as opposed to what it used to be. And, in these other countries, they really don't accept it. And very rarely would it get out. But, I think it's becoming more mainstream now, too. Of course, there's more cryptids TV out there, paranormal TV and cryptid TV. So, I'm not always saying that's a good thing, but it's out there, so people will feel a little more comfortable calling us or anybody else to report something.
Now, speaking of winged creatures, what about that giant winged creature that people claim to see in the woods?
In the woods?
Well, I mean, when they're out hiking in the mountains, and when they're seeing that big bird thing.
Yeah, you're talking about the thunderbird or a large bird? Yeah,
or whatever bird that is. Yeah.
Yeah. Occasionally, we'll get something like that. I have had a few of those. I live here in Pennsylvania. We get quite a number of large bird sightings, thunderbird sightings, if you want to call them that. Mm-hmm. We also get a lot of beings that are described as gargoyles, or even something like, which when I had my encounter, that was here in Pennsylvania as well. This area where I'm at, we've got several documentations of some type of winged being, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's certain areas that it seems to be prevalent. The Rust Belt, the old Rust Belt, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin. There seem to be areas where a lot of these winged beings show up at, and that's kind of continued over time.
Well, there's a question in there about the Thunderbird. Do you believe that there's something out there like the Thunderbird?
Possible. I mean, I try to keep an open mind on all this.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I saw. And I when people contact me, I give them the benefit of the doubt until unless I investigate it and something else comes up and it just totally disproves it. But I feel like when you get a case and you get the information, you're part of the case. So it's up to you to go ahead and go forward and to get as much information you can, either good or bad. I mean, that's just the way it has to be. And but yeah, I think there's possibility. Some of the sightings that I've had reported to me, they seem to be fairly consistent. Opposed to someone sees one here that no one's ever seen one before, but there are areas where seem to be a lot of that activity that shows up.
What's one of the most interesting cases that you've been on?
Oh, this Mothman Chicago stuff is in Lake Michigan. This is the biggest case I've been on.
Absolutely. So I know for people that haven't seen those shows or know about the Chicago Mothman, what does this thing look like?
Well, for the most part, I mean,
Oh no, frozen. See if we can get back on.
Was like something that looked close to a Mothman. Tall being, red eyes. It was in an area we would call Oz Park. The wings were high. They were kind of on the back and up over the head. Kind of an insectoid-like wing.
Okay.
A woman was walking her dog. We were lucky enough because she had reported to MUFON, we were lucky enough to track her down. And, she was a professional. She wasn't pulling wool over eyes. I mean, I didn't believe so. And she told us that this thing was standing there watching. And actually, she had a Jack Russell. And how rambunctious they are. This thing cowered behind her and was scared to death. It literally, and this is another aspect of these beings. They're usually pretty thin, dark in color, and more and more we're getting more these membrane-like wings like that of a bat or a gargoyle. I'd say 95% of the sightings now are that. So I tend to believe that there have been multiple beings that have come through. We've also had beings that people describe looking like an owl or an owl man, large wings and like the owl-like head. We had a few of those early, but it kind of all it kind of all manifested into this this tall, thin, 6 to 7 foot tall, thin, dark in color. Had legs. Sometimes the arms were attached to the wings. Sometimes they weren't, but it always had these membrane wings. It had the ability to ascend without flapping its wings sometime, just like there was, some type of propulsion, some type of supernatural means means of being able to take off. And many times this thing would screech very loudly. A lot of people described it as sounding like train brakes. So it was quite shrilling. And so, yeah, that's kind of what we're getting for the most part.
Interesting. I have a question about the Dogman or the Dogman.
Well, we have specifically been looking into the Dogman phenomena here in Pennsylvania and states around Pennsylvania. We have had quite a few sightings and reports over the years. I don't know where we're at now. My partner Butch and I think we probably had close to 30 sightings. Very terrifying sightings. Though we have, they haven't been any type of aggression, but they do stand their ground. They're huge. I mean, the uprights, the ones standing, are up to 10 foot in some cases. They're huge animals, and a lot of time the head is like that of a dog, and or something, even a wolf. Very tapered body, muscular. Sometimes the legs look human, or sometimes they're hawk like that of a dog. Yeah, a very well-defined animal, but they stand their ground. Even with hunters who have encountered them, it's like, and you've heard with Bigfoot and other creatures about possible infrasound, or able to psychically control who is watching them, and I think that happens in the case of the Dogman or the upright canine. If they kind of make people back off, of course, if I had a gun, I wouldn't shoot it because who knows what this thing's going to do,
Right.
There have been cases where people have shot at these things, not any of my cases, where they've shot at this or even a Bigfoot and it just seemed to go right through them. Nothing happened. Then there's other beings, which I consider the real Dogman, which is a quadruped, but they have some characteristics that are unlike any other canine. They kind of have that slope back like that of a hyena. They do have a large head, many times like a large German Shepherd head, maybe sometimes a wolf. A very muscular body, muscular legs, and very fast, supernatural fast. And yeah, we've gotten a few of those as well. So yeah, of course you hear all the sightings nationwide and up in Canada all around, but I have concentrated personally more on what's going on around this area.
Sure. Do people see them during the day?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the sightings are during the day.
Okay. Interesting. But I would think, like with Sasquatch, I mean, they'll see them during the day, but a lot of them are at night because this guy's out camping. And I thought maybe with the Dogman it would be something at night where people are out walking or whatever, and they come up on one. Interesting.
They don't seem to be afraid. It's just like even with these winged humanoids, they seem to they don't have much fear. They're showing themselves for some reason. They'll come right up on somebody and fly by them or turn around and come back. They don't really seem to have any feeling that they need to hide. Though, I mean, the sightings are fleeting for the most part. They're very quick. To the point where it's difficult to get a photograph. By the time the shock wears off and you're grabbing the phone, this thing is gone. So they're quick.
Do you think that another dimension might be involved? Because like even with the Sasquatch, it's always the case of now you see it, now you don't.
Oh, I think there's some involvement there. In the case of Sasquatch or Bigfoot, I do believe there are indigenous beings in the state of the United States for the most part, like the Pacific Northwest up into British Columbia. I believe there are real indigenous beings. And people see a lot of family groups when they're there as well. So I think they're breeding there. They're just like with the skunk apes down in Florida. Then there's certain species along the Gulf Coast over into Texas and such. I believe those are indigenous beings. But for the most part, in other areas where a lot of these sightings take place, and I'm talking about the Mid-Atlantic and into the upper Midwest and along the coast of the Atlantic coast, even up to Canada. I think a lot of that, I think they may very well be some type of interdimensional being.
Hmm.
It's usually a quick sighting. They're usually singular. They're, like a lone wolf, lone Bigfoot, and very rarely you see a female by herself or a juvenile by itself. It's usually a male that is on lone. So I mean, you take it for what it's worth, but I think there's something to that.
Question from the chat room. I think it goes back to the Dogman. Are most of the sightings in secluded areas?
Not necessarily. It's been both. In Pennsylvania, it seems that most of the sightings are in the game lands in Pennsylvania. Now, Pennsylvania has a lot of game lands. I mean, it's well over 200 of them. They're not huge, but they're protected for hunters and such. But we have had a lot of sightings in there. Now, I don't know if that's because there are a lot of hunters in these game lands taking advantage of it, but not necessarily, being secluded. We've had people literally see these things on the side of the road eating roadkill.
Wow.
Several instances of that. So, yeah, they're they're out there in a lot of different places, but I wouldn't say they're really secluded.
Well, I was just thinking when you were talking, or we were talking about Sasquatch and that, you think about Loch Ness too, okay, and you think about all the areas, even with Northern California going into Oregon, how much acreage there is, how many wood, how many trees there are, where there could be a colony of things living out there, and we wouldn't even know about it. Just like with
Absolutely.
Loch Ness, there's so many water, bodies of water out there.
Yeah, there's enough wilderness in this country and this world to harbor a lot of different things. You talk about the oceans being so deep and cover so much of the earth.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff there we definitely have no idea what's there. But I think that kind of applies to a lot of the areas, like in Canada, the United States, just particular. Just like Pennsylvania, I saw somewhere where 40%, 47% of the state is forested.
See, yeah.
And it's a heavy agriculture area as well. So, and there's cities and such. So, that's a lot of territory. And, there are areas within this state and a lot of other states that, you very rarely see people.
I mean, yeah, if something wants to hide, it's going to hide.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, because there's just so many areas that they can hide in, and nobody would know. There's caves, whatever else is out there. So, I mean, the possibilities are endless as to what is out there.
Absolutely.
What is one of the... I know you're investigating the Mothman stuff right now, Chicago. Which one out of all the creatures do you find the most intimidating?
Oh, the upright canines, absolutely. Because it's not a new phenomenon. We've got records of these things going back hundreds of years, like when people from the old world came over here, and a lot of the German farmers and such, they kind of brought the lore back with them. Did they bring the thing with them? Who knows? Are these some type of thought form manifestations, or just something that there's lots of documentation of these sightings, and but quite honest with you, the size that people report these things, it's something I don't want to run into, quite frankly. We go out there and do an investigation, but we're out there looking for evidence. We're not necessarily going out there to have an encounter with one of these things. Maybe we'll put a camera trap out, get lucky, and maybe something will show up. Maybe we'll find a body. I don't know. But yeah, I wouldn't want to run into one of them.
Have you found any evidence, though? What you think might be evidence?
Yeah, you find as far as Bigfoot goes, there's a lot of hair samples. I've been privy to a lot of these genome studies and some of the DNA studies and such, and a lot of different places as well. And I think we're getting there. We're not anywhere near right now, but as technology continues to increase, I think we're going to start getting more and more information. I've said for a long time, that quantum computing is going to really open up a lot of the paranormal secrets. Because when quantum computing becomes more of a mainstream thing, people start being able to afford these things and start messing around. They're going to start finding out a few things that we don't know now, I'm afraid, good or bad. I mean, there are a lot of theories about these particle accelerators possibly being able to open up rifts between dimensions. It's been suggested that the particle accelerator out at Fermi Labs in Cook County, though it's supposedly shut down, there still seems to be a lot of activity out there. And in fact, they have been reporting the past year or so some new equipment going in there, and they've been testing things. So is something going on there that's contributing to what's going on in Chicago? Who knows? It may very well. But, like I said again, it's all speculation to this point. Is it going to be some type of metaphysical evidence that's going to come forth? We've got people who do that. And, we're working on that now.
What happens when you get a call for a report?
Well, it just depends on the report.
Okay.
If it's something I can go to, I'll go to it. But I got a pretty big team. The Phantoms and Monsters Fortean research team is quite extensive at this point. We've got over 20 members, boots on the ground all over the country. We've got 15 affiliate groups who can handle a call if I can't get one of my people to go out there. But overall, we cover a lot, and I kind of leave it up to them to do what they want to do. And they're all seasoned investigators. They've been around this for a long time. We don't just go into cryptids. We're all facets of the paranormal, even hauntings. And I seem to end up handling the local hauntings. And believe me, there's a lot of them around here. I mean, I moved back up to Pennsylvania back in 2016 after spending 40 years down in Maryland, and within the first 2.5 years, I had 26 cases in this town alone. So, I don't know if it's because of its proximity with Gettysburg, but there's a lot of history here, and it tends to it tends to show itself at some occasions. And I've had actual activity in like just certain blocks of the town, where it seems like the same activity is happening to a lot of homes. So it's been pretty busy. But like I said, when we do have something in some other areas, and look, I have a lot of people or associates I can contact that if for information or some get a point of view from them. I've been lucky enough to be able to do that, and that's what we do.
Well, I'm definitely jealous of you guys out that way, because California, stuff old to us is like 1800s.
Yeah.
You guys get all the real old stuff, and I mean, it must be really fun as an investigator to go out and look into all that, just like Gettysburg and places like that. So I'm jealous. I'm jealous of you guys.
Well, we're just lucky. I mean, this is the history of this country for the most part happened and documented here in this part, in the eastern part of the United States. But there's a lot of indigenous activity around here, as well as out your way. But there's for whatever reason, and for whatever means, it does seem to pervade in the land. It's kind of residual itself here. We get some interesting calls sometimes, and when we do, we'll go out and I'll grab one of my guys here in Pennsylvania and we'll go. And I got several people working here in this state, so we're just a phone call away.
Absolutely. Here's a question: does Lon believe that the veil is thinning?
Oh, it's thin. Yeah, it's thinning. It's opening up. It's rifts. I believe that it has been thinning for a long time. And when I say a long time, I'm saying 25 to 20 years. It seems like the reports are coming in more frequently. The quality of the reports are better. The beings that are being seen and reported are not your standard fare. Yeah, there's I believe there is energy or some type of flesh and blood beings that are able to get through it. And I think there's a lot of evidence to back that up. It's just a matter of being able to find the proof. That's what we do, and that's what we strive for.
Now, you wrote a book about aliens as well.
Yeah, I did. The Alien Disclosure, Experiencers Exposed Reality, and this was a book that was a accumulation of all of cases and such I've worked on for 30 plus years anyway. But yeah, some people I've been working with, some cases that people have contacted me where it wasn't always good. It wasn't I didn't sugarcoat what was in there. I mean, I put in what actually happened, what I observed, some of my thoughts of what may have happened. But there's quite a different, a lot of categories of different type of beings. Just like Men in Black, I believe they may possibly be extraterrestrial. I have no real proof of that, but I talked about lots of different phenomena that may very well be extraterrestrial. So, of course, we talked. I talked about abduction cases I've been involved with, particular encounter cases. Yeah, it's just a lot of stuff I accumulated over the years, and I decided it was time to put it in a book, so that's what I did.
I have a question. This is my question. Do you think that some of the things that we are investigating might be alien related?
No, I think a lot of it is. Yeah, in fact, I think there may be a correlation between a lot of the cryptid phenomena, even hauntings and such, that may very well be extraterrestrial. Then again, that could be the other way around too. I think there are some connections. For years and years, many of us thought that there might be a Bigfoot UFO connection of some type because people have seen the phenomena around the same time, or when we go into investigate a Bigfoot sighting, even a few days later, we'll see orbs or we'll see small lights and such. And is it related to extraterrestrials? Is it related to some type of spirit energy? We don't know. That's becoming more prevalent as time is going on. I think the usual Bigfoot Sasquatch investigator of 20, 25, 30 years ago is becoming a little more open-minded about the whole phenomena. We haven't found a body. We have no real proof that these beings exist other than what's been on film, though some of it is pretty compelling. Witness statements like mine or somebody else. Yeah, we believe they're out there. I can only say it. I know they're out there, but that's going to go so far. But until we get the actual flesh and blood evidence or a body or something to that effect, I don't know that there's going to be too many satisfied people. It's a type of thing that's not going to go moot. I mean, people are going to continue to investigate this unexplained phenomena, regardless of what actually happens.
I've noticed. That's why I've been wondering about the whole alien, connection with like even paranormal investigating, because some of these reports of experiencers after they've come back, and they have the repeated sightings in their homes where these aliens are able to walk through walls. Just like the ghosts we see, that people report. Some of our like some of those EVPs we even get. I mean, some of them sound mechanical, and some of them sound so far away that it could be, Well,
I think there's a lot to that. I mean, the alien phenomena, extraterrestrial phenomena. I don't like really saying alien. That's good to sell books, but it's really extraterrestrial or multi-terrestrial being. It has kind of evolved over time. Earlier on, you would hear, let's say, like Betty and Barney Hill or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. You know, I kind of, I kind of cut my teeth with the Benny and Barney Hill thing because I was young. I heard about it, and that really piqued my interest. But they were abducted onto a craft. They had experiments done to them. They had a lifetime of strange activity. Um, Travis Walton supposedly abducted onto a craft, had experiments done, this and that. Then it kind of evolved into more of, and what I believe is that that these beings are taking samples, even embryos,
Mm-hmm.
even children and such, to raise to maybe strengthen their DNA. Because quite frankly, my theory is that these grays and other humanoid type of aliens
Mm-hmm.
are literally evolved humans. And when I say that, I believe humans are an universal type of species. I think there are a lot of different forms of humans that have evolved or had manipulated some type of DNA or structure and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of what I think they like to check up on us for that, gather samples and such. And, we had a lot of that still goes on. Maybe not as much as it used to. I've talked to people who have had, I literally had a woman who was in her mid 20s. And by the time she reached that age, she had 6 lost uh, pregnancies right around
Wow.
the end of the first trimester. And she literally knew to me and said to me that she was abducted and they were taken. Uh, and I've had a few of those. I've literally had a few women telling me this, and if it's true, then we've heard a lot of stories about people who have been taken onto a craft or taken to a location, and they're shown a child. Though they could tell it wasn't fully human and possibly a
Mm-hmm.
hybrid, but they knew it was related to them.
Yeah.
And so yeah, but more recently, and like I said, there seems to be an involvement as far as the alien abduction phenomena. Is that I think a lot of these these extraterrestrials have formed factions over time. And when I say form factions, I think they do it for a lot of different reasons. But when there is an abduction scenario or there is an encounter at a location, there are usually 4, 5, 6 different types of beings there at the abduction. And many times there are humans there. It's like there are actual humans who are not mixed with any type of extraterrestrial who are involved with this. So we're seeing a lot more of that now, and it's fascinating because people who go through this, and they are kind of bewildered as to why they're being abducted, and these are all humans that are doing it to them.
Mm-hmm.
Then eventually, these other beings will show up. So yeah, there seems to be a lot of cooperation, and it seems to be a lot of human cooperation as well.
Do you think that because obviously they're trying to either take our DNA or other stuff, do you think that maybe these humans that people are seeing aren't really humans, that they could be the product of the experiments,
All right.
the ones that have gone correctly?
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah, I believe that. Like I said before, I think even the grays or
Mm-hmm.
the different variations of grays, possibly even reptilian type beings or something to that effect. I think there's a very good possibility that these are evolved humans that have found a way to travel back in time and to show themselves to us. Are they here to help us not destroy ourselves or
Mm-hmm.
to smooth over things that they screwed up when they were here? Are they trying to change history? I think there's a good possibility of that. And yeah, that's why I think the human species is literally a universal species that is seen in a lot of different places.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I want to take a trip back with you to Gettysburg because that fascinates me. Because I've had other people tell me that they've been out there at night, walking around, or even during the day, and they're able to hear these noises. Do you think it's a permanent imprint on time? And you just have to hit that right moment to go through.
Yeah, what people see are residual, and
Okay.
recently there was this sighting of this supposed Confederate soldier around a cannon battery. Well, I knew where that was. I know exactly where that was
Right.
because I've seen it several times myself. It's residual energy.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of those in the. Now there are some places off the battlefield where a lot of this stuff is seen at night because you're allowed on the battlefield. They won't let you
Mm-hmm.
on the battlefield now at night.
Okay.
So though I used to sneak on it when I was a kid and camped out, but used to take my buddies, kind of try to impress them at night, and you know they'd see something, and then they have something to talk about the next Monday morning in school. But I'd say most of what people see is imprinted or some type of residual energy. And look, for people who are sensitive, it's kind of tough to be out there sometimes because it can wear on you. It wears on me. It
Mm-hmm.
really does. I mean, the area where I go to every time I go to the battlefield, and that's several times a year, is the area around the 20th Main Monument, where the on the second day of the battle. Very strong area, very very well imprinted. Even the whole way down the hill, over across into Big Round Top and down into the Devil's Den. It's very heavily imprinted. That second day energy is palpable in most parts of the battlefield for whatever reason. There was death every day there, but it seems to be strong there. I've been to all over that battlefield, but that's the area that draws me the most. So, but yeah, when people get these photographs of these specters or phantoms, it's usually something that's residual, kind of runs on a loop. I've seen several of these things where it kind of runs on a loop, where so people see it. I've talked to rangers a lot out there, and it's funny because they tell me people will come up to them and say, "I didn't know you had a reenactment going on today." But we don't, and they saw a platoon or something out there marching. So they wanted to, they thought it was so realistic, those, but they didn't know they were having some type of reenactment, and in fact they saw these residual energy.
That's interesting because one of the spookier stories about Gettysburg, I don't know if it's a pretty popular story, so you might have seen it, is the woman, because they were doing reenactments, and this woman had a pickup truck, and she was making a little money driving the reenactors back to town and back and forth. And so she did her last drop off.
Mm-hmm.
And as she's driving, she notices there's some guys in the back of her pickup truck.
Happens all the
that's
time.
Got to be spooky as all
It happens
heck.
all the time. I tell you, I've talked to several reenactors who, they bivouac out there. They stay out there for a couple of nights and days, mm-hmm. and they have literally had manifestations in their tents. They'd wake up and something sleeping there, until they realize it's not another person. Mm-hmm. They'd be out in the middle of the night. They'd be out in nighttime by their fire and out there doing whatever they do, talking, and they see something, a specter just walking right between the tents and all. It happens a lot. I have heard all kinds of crazy stories, but it's pretty believable. And quite frankly, with all the things that happen out there, the amount of death mm-hmm. and destruction that occurred at Gettysburg, it doesn't surprise me. Antietam is another battlefield, which is just south of in Maryland, in Sharpsburg. Another example of a lot of imprint. People see a lot of strange things out there as well. And there's a lot of other phenomena that happens out there also. Why that happens, I don't know. But there seems to be a lot of a lot of orb activity in some of those places. It seems to be like lost spirits are trying to find their way. But yeah, these battlefields are, especially the bigger ones, are definitely have an imprint.
Lots of emotion there. Lots of emotion. Lots of emotion. I wanted to ask you before we end today about the chupacabra.
Well, people swear by it. It's mostly something that people started seeing and reporting in Puerto Rico and maybe a few other Hispanic countries. As far as what people are seeing here in the United States, these hairless dogs, or what they call blue dogs. The overall thought is that these are a mix of Mexican wolves and coyotes. Now, why they have that mangy look to them? Many of them have no hair on them at all. They're kind of bizarre looking. They got some pretty good size canines on them. I've seen several people shot these things and swear they had a chupacabra. Well, I mean, it's not even near to what people have reported down into Mexico. And, this has been pretty heavily investigated by several researchers. And, I think the chupacabra in itself, especially the ones that have been seen in Puerto Rico, because Puerto Rico has a lot of a lot of extraterrestrial activity. And I have documented landings in some of this rainforest as well. And a lot of times when people have had this experience, these things show up, and they're not dogs. I mean, they're kind of the weirdest looking thing with big red eyes and spikes up and down their back, snarling and carrying on, and just scaring the living daylights out of the people in the village or such. So, that's kind of where it started at. I don't know why people think it's here in mostly in Texas and some of the Midwest, but I don't believe that's what it is.
Well, I've seen pictures of some of the ones that that people have found, and to me, they just look like a sick dog. Just a bigger sick dog that has maybe mange or something's going on with it. So I just find it interesting because, like you say, what the people in Mexico and in South America describe as a chupacabra is completely different from what people are picking up here. I just think if they see something strange like that, or even a coyote with with mange problems or skin problems, right away it's a chupacabra.
Well, it's a cultural thing for the most part. I mean, Hispanic folks kind of, they kind of believe that's what this thing is. It's what they call a goat sucker, or it goes in and kills chickens by sucking the blood out of it, or a goat and sucks the blood out of it. Yeah, okay, it may be something like that. It may even be extraterrestrial, but what people are seeing in the United States isn't, anything close to what that is.
Absolutely. Where can people contact you?
Well, you can go to phantomsandmonsters.com, and I've got my phone number there, my email. You just click on the button, and it'll take you there. We publish every day. Anything unusual comes up, I have it up there. Also, you can go to cryptidhunters.org, and that's the team website. Any investigations, especially the Chicago investigations, are listed there as well. I have a radio show, Arcane Radio, which is live every Friday night at 9:00 Eastern on Beyond Explanation YouTube channel.
Well, I'll be checking that out for sure. I'll tell you. I mean, I could sit here all night and just pick your head. Pick your head. I'm sorry. Boy, that's a weird sight in your head. Pick your brain, because man, you're just so fascinated with all the studies you've done, and all the books you've written. And I was actually on your blog looking at stuff, and seeing what you have on there. I mean, it's just so interesting to me.
I appreciate that.
I just think it's so fascinating. I just really do. One more question for me is that, do you think, and I know this is probably far stretching, there's that big thing about the missing 911 people.
Missing 411, yeah.
411. God, my mind is like jello. Thank you. Missing 411. Do you think any of that could be related to alien encounters?
I think it could be. I think it could be related to a lot of different things. Just the fact that these things are so quick a lot of times, I don't think it's any type of... I think some cases it may be a Bigfoot or some other type of being, but as far as someone going into a portal, which I believe they are out there. I mean, I believe people can get caught up into a some type of opening between time and space and just get lost. Or is this caused by extraterrestrials? Possibly. Is this something else? That's possible as well. It's something we don't know about. But I don't believe it's impossible. People are definitely going missing.
Mm-hmm.
The number of people that go missing in this country alone is astounding. And the number that don't come back is even more scary. So the fact that a lot of this is going on in state parks, national parks, and such is it's kind of intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's entirely possible.
Absolutely. And give us a list of your books. You've got 9 books, right?
Well, there are 3 in print right now. The first 5, the Encounter series, is actually being compiled into one book.
Okay.
And I have a new publisher, Beyond the Freight Publishing, which is going to put that together. But my other books are The Mothman Dynasty, Chicago's Winged Humanoids, Alien Disclosure, Experiencers Expose Reality. And my newest book is Winged Cryptids, Monsters, Humanoids, and Anomalous Creatures. And that's a case book. And it's all cases that I've worked on and been involved with. And I am working on another book about the humanoid crawler walker phenomena that people are seeing more and more of now.
Mm-hmm.
It's work in progress, but I'm getting there.
Absolutely. I noticed that because I was over on Amazon. I noticed that a lot of those are available in audiobook, right?
Not mine. No, I don't have any audiobook right now, though. Okay. I have someone close to me who's trying to talk me into doing it,
there you
go. We'll have to wait and see.
Okay. Anyway, my bad. Anyway, I apologize. It's just been one of those days. Anyway, I appreciate you coming on. I would love to have you on again at some point to talk some more, because this was just fascinating. Like I said, I could just go for hours talking to you about this stuff. But I really appreciate you coming on, and I hope everybody else did too. And I hope you have a good evening, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What a great show that was. What a great show. I'm really excited. Hopefully he will come back and talk to us. Tomorrow is going to be a different kind of show. Bruce Olive Solheim is going to be on tomorrow, and he is a psychic medium who, through his abilities, has contacted an ancient, what he says is an ancient alien, who he gets advice from and who he asks questions to about past, future, and current events. So it's going to be interesting to talk with him. And if you like the show, PayPal me at California Haunts. We are a nonprofit team, and all the costs for this show come out of pocket. But I would like you guys, if you can, I know money's tight now for people, but it'd be great to try and keep this thing on the air. To help me out a little bit too is paypal.me at California Haunts. Go to our YouTube page, California. Just Google in California Haunts YouTube, and it should come up for you. And become a subscriber. We're looking for more subscribers on our YouTube page. And if you like the show, share it with 5 people. If you didn't like the show, share it with 5 people, or share it with your enemies to get even with them. I don't know, but just get our name out there, and I really appreciate it. Anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow at 6:30, so we can talk to Bruce about his alien friend. And I really appreciate you all coming by tonight and spending an hour with Lon and I. And have a great evening, you guys.